Abu Layth, known as Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. I think when it comes to matters of the deen, that this is really something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires people to take this path. I mean, it wasn't, when it happened, it wasn't something like a plan that I'd had from ages before. It was just that I just really got so interested in the deen and I wanted to just learn more. It began with small things, just wanting to have some understanding of the Arabic language, and then it just got deeper and deeper. I want to have a deeper understanding, maybe understand some of the Qur'an, to understanding the entire Qur'an, to a hadith, and it's actually quite addictive. So that's how it is, really. Initially, myself, you see, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't raised in a very religious family or anything like this. My background, just normal, I suppose, had the cultural understanding of Islam. I wasn't actually into education either, as somebody when I went to school and stuff like that. I wasn't at all into studying. I wasn't interested in that at all. So I wouldn't have had any, if you told me back then, let's say when I was at school or even when I was at college or just going to college at that, if you told me, would you like to become a mufti? I mean, I don't think I would have actually known back then what a mufti was, or even perhaps may have heard of the word mufti. But if you told me, would you be interested in studying Islam to this extent, and you would end up doing this, I would have actually, it would have just, if anything, just been humorous. I would never have believed that, I would go off and end up becoming a mufti and studying like this, because my life wasn't really aimed in that direction. So I didn't know, and even when I began my studies, I didn't have this understanding that it would lead to this, training to be a mufti. It was, like I said, it was very incremental. And I think it's something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires individuals, and you sometimes get almost like a belief that you can do something, that you can learn. And I think that experience, that sometimes people call it like sharh al-sadr or something in Arabic, that the chest almost expands to it, it warms to this feeling that actually I can do this. So it was like the first time somebody said to me, one of my teachers said to me, I was just learning Arabic at a very basic level, and I was just coming to terms with the fundamental structures of the Arabic language, and I was actually doing this on my own. When I studied initially, I just ended up, because I couldn't find teachers and things like this, so I did have teachers and they had commitments, I just ended up buying a book and just going through that book on my own. Every day I would just go through it for, whether it's 20-30 minutes, and I would just cover that, and that's how I would learn. And I remember when somebody first told me, one of my teachers told me, that why don't you travel abroad? Why don't you go to Syria? And you're talking to me, who at the time I would have probably just been 17. From a very almost like a sheltered perspective. Hadn't really probably, leisurely travelled almost outside of the city, almost like from a very, I did feel that my perspectives were very sheltered at the time. For me, that was impossible. I felt that to go to another country, just get up, go to another country and study, and that was inconceivable. The amazing thing was that I actually remember at the time, and I actually remember it vividly, that I set off from the teacher's home and I was going to the local masjid, and at the time I remember just a feeling, thinking that, maybe it's actually possible. And that feeling, I would seriously say that whenever I've had that feeling in life, and I encourage people to kind of follow on with these intuitions. That type of intuitive feeling, whenever I've had that, I've pursued it, and it's always kind of planned out. So it was this type of feeling that maybe I can go to Syria. You know what? Maybe this isn't impossible. And I started speaking to one person. He started speaking to another. And before I knew it, I was going to Syria. So, and it just, one thing led to another. And even there, I wasn't thinking, oh, this is going to end up. It was just, I was there for a little while. Then I got interested in doing hifz of the Qur'an. I thought that, I really want to memorize the Qur'an. And it was unfortunate that at the time in Syria, there was no madh'hab or facilities that allowed full-time memorization of the Qur'an. And I just began on my own. I did a few juz like that every day. I would just do a certain amount. But I started to then realize that as a proper commitment to memorizing the Qur'an, it just won't be feasible. So that's when I thought, okay, maybe go to a different part of the world. And I went to Pakistan. And likewise, from hifz, I thought, maybe I can get some books, learn some books and learn some usul and some fiqh and get onto the alim course. And I thought, maybe I can become an alim. And from the alim thing, I thought, maybe I could just do this mufti thing. And I have to say, wallahi, that it has been the most incredible achievement that personally I've ever, bi'idhnillah, and with tawfiq from Allah, ever managed to kind of obtain and achieve. You see, why the Maliki madhhab is a very interesting question. I think, I wasn't from that background, from more of a Hanafi background. And Hanafi fiqh was what I was initially learning. I have to say that I seriously feel that madhhabs have a personality. And we as people, we sometimes may find our personalities kind of align themselves, almost gel with the personality of a particular madhhab. And I genuinely, initially it began with just that spark, like an interest in the madhhab. I heard about it from different places. I'd heard of concepts like Amalu Ahl Medina, the practice of the people of Medina. I'd heard that the madhhab, this amazing personality, Imam Malik, two of my teachers were Maliki. So that initial spark, the more I started to kind of learn about it, I began to realize that the tabi'ah, the type of nature of the madhhab was one that I really felt, I don't know, I just felt at the time so drawn to it that it just seemed like things which I would be very comfortable with. I know that sounds maybe a bit strange. What's even stranger is that as I began to learn the madhhab more and develop further into the madhhab, it really, the personality of it was evidently so congruent with my own personality. That is something I could not have known initially, but it really was. And I'd like to just give an example. The Maliki madhhab is really big on keeping things natural, and you'll see this as almost like an underpinning theme that goes right throughout the fiqh. So you'll see things like whether it's a mas'ala in salah or it's a mas'ala in sawm or something else, or whether it's in the chapters of nikah or talaq or other things, you will see that the fiqh always seems to emphasize that, look, just keep it natural. Like salah is a good thing that everybody can relate to. So here's a question: how do I stand in salah? Where should my feet look? Just stand naturally. The Maliki madhhab has the position also of holding the hands, for example, or you can let them hang. But how should I hold my hand? Just however it comes together naturally. Okay, how many tasbihat should I say? Look, whatever comes naturally to you. This is the type of theme that you see repeating itself right throughout the madhhab. And I found that really resonating with me, as opposed to having finite things, like no, you must do things in a specific way. No, your fingers must be like this, and no, you must say this only 3 times, or no, you can. So I found this very natural type of connection within the madhhab. Once again, these type of small things, like when you're in salah, you can make any dua you like. You can talk about anything. You can even say in any language. these things to me brought about a greater reality of what I would have perceived the fiqh to be anyway. So this is what I'm saying. It really kind of touched home with me. My favorite Islamic science, that's a good question. I do feel that I have actually been drawn to many Islamic sciences, and I'm quite fond of many of them. But if I had to choose, I would say fiqh. Reason being that I think as a person, maybe my personality, it's really somebody that's always been fascinated with certain debates, certain angles that people have when they're trying to, I don't know, win over an argument, whether it's philosophical, whether it's logical. These type of things have always just, and I don't even mean from an academic perspective, I just mean even growing up, I've been fascinated by things like that. So I found myself more drawn to fiqh, the battling of the masail, the evidence that this madhhab has over that madhhab and so on, and the arguments. And so I found that very compelling, and so I've definitely immersed myself into the realm of fiqh. Besides that, I mean, I've had an interest in things like hadith. I've had an interest in usulul fiqh, also in the Arabic language, quite for a while, quite expansively. Really, I looked into Arabic grammar, and we're talking about things like, once again, drawn to that, almost that argumentative, that type of debating angle, where I looked at things like the schools of grammar, the Kufic school of grammar, the Basri school of grammar, how they originated, who were the key people, the positions they held, why, for example, we will see things like why Al-Akhfash, for example, disagrees with Khalil on certain points, or Sibawayh, and how that all plays out. And there was a particular point during my studies where I got immersed into all of that, and it was amazing, I would say. But the only problem with things like grammar and nahu and is perhaps finding that type of medium to keep it alive. Whereas with fiqh, I think more people can relate to it, therefore you can keep it alive, and you'll probably struggle to do so with other very specific sciences like grammar. What's the hype about Islamic Spain? Al-Andalus is an amazing part of our history. One I'm particularly attached to. A reason being that naturally it's very close to where we are. As in Britain today, it's, we're only, about 1,000, miles really off from what would have been almost the heart and the central bed of Islamic Spain. Now, besides the proximity angle that it's close to us, there was the thing that it was the land of Islam, really, the bastion of Islam within Europe, on European soil, and one which spanned centuries. We're talking almost 8 centuries of Muslim, not just presence, but prominence almost during many parts of that on European soil within Europe as natives, not as immigrants, and a civilization that flourished and almost, one could say, led the way for the rest of Europe to follow. So there's that angle. There's the side of it being Maliki in fiqh, following the school of Medina. I do believe that having the Maliki madhhab as almost its, as one of its kind of driving forces in shaping the society was instrumental in its survival. I do feel, perhaps people will argue with me on that, but I feel that the Maliki madhhab, due to principles like masalih mursala, due to its elasticity of understanding, due to its push on maqasid, we find that the Andalusi ulama, they had perhaps, I mean, maybe they were equipped, and I believe sufficiently and adequately equipped to tackle the situations that they faced, but not only tackle them, but to come out on top and to help shape a civilization that can now shed light upon our times and guide us in this day and age, and a time of confusion. So there is that angle that, yes, obviously I have that Maliki connection and the proximity, but I also feel that the history is just incredible. It's something I can't really sum into just words, just in a few sentences. I would say that, please, for anybody out there that has a slight interest in history, you must study the history of Al-Andalus. It really encapsulates almost the entire history from a personality perspective of Islam. Almost, you will see amazing amazing phenomena. You will see things like the advent of Islam, how it incredibly kind of takes ground, like with such pace. You will see it kind of rising. You will see the political angle. You will see things like amazing heroism, like heroic type of just roles taken by the people of Al-Andalus. You will at the same time see things like betrayal. You will see incidents of whether it's hate and bitter politics, but at the same time equally met with amazing courage. You will see it was a land which declared its own caliphate. I mean, where do you find that? Where it becomes the most powerful kingdom known on earth at the time, with the rise of Abdurrahman III, who declares himself the Khalifa of the Muslim world, taking Al-Andalus to a new paradigm altogether. So you see all of this. Yet at the same time, then you see it going through, decay and then rise. And if anything, it's like a roller coaster ride of Islamic civilization through history, with an unfortunate demise almost. But it does leave us still with incredible lessons, teaching us that what rises also falls. But in the aftermath, we still find still beautiful courage displayed by the Muslims that were there, and an everlasting message that they left for Muslims that would come after them in Europe. So I mean, that's some of what the hype is about. I believe that it has changed it in unprecedented ways, really, and I believe that social media is instrumental to teaching and to da'wah in general. I know it's helped me ever so much, and I know it's helped many people really just reach out to other people that would have been almost impossible to connect with if it were not for social media. Difference in Islam is definitely a mercy, and I cannot understand anybody that would wish to contradict that message. It is absolutely a mercy, and it is a message of tolerance and acceptance. I do get attacked a lot for my appearance. It doesn't really bother me to that extent, no. One of the reasons I persist, if you like, is because I feel that, first of all, I haven't done anything wrong from an Islamic perspective. I have always demonstrated what I believe sufficiently with evidences, academically, from a very ilmi perspective, that what I'm doing is not really wrong. I believe that it's fine within Islam. The alternative angle is that, well, okay, even if it is fine, but you're a mufti and you should know better. This is the angle that people come with at times, that they accept that, okay, this isn't necessarily, I mean, there's some that won't accept, but there's many that will accept, but they will just struggle with me as a mufti having an appearance like this. And I feel that we have many muftis or imams or ulama that don't, for example, have this appearance, that have a very, let's say, an Eastern outlook in terms of their appearance. They will wear the thobe, they will wear the imamah, and we have that as a role model for people. But I believe that there's many Muslims out there, many hundreds of thousands of Muslims who are not interested in the deen but have a certain interest. And I know people that would want to associate with the deen, but they feel they cannot become that person. They feel that, look, I'm interested in this whole thing, I want to be a part of it, I want to connect, but I cannot become that if that's what the end product must categorically look like. So I believe that if we can provide these people an alternative role model, that look, you don't have to be like that. Islam is for all places and all times, it's for all cultures. So if there's even some people that I can reach out to with that message, and believe me, and this is something which many people don't see, they see sometimes on social media a lot of the hate kind of targeted at me and pointed at me. What they don't see sometimes is a lot of the support and a lot of those people who have chosen to study the deen, that do contact me privately, that do talk to me, that do kind of share their type of insights with me. They don't get to see that positive side. And alhamdulillah, if it can provide some khair, then it's worth the little slack that I get in place of it. The message to those who attack me, I'd like to say just haters gonna hate. No, I mean, I think on a realistic note, I would say, look, we have a difference. You don't like the way I dress, you don't like the way that's fine. I'm not telling you to embrace it. I don't have a problem with the way you dress, I don't have a problem with the way you decide to do your hair or to shape your beard. If we can just accept that what I'm doing is based on reason, it is based on aspects of the deen, I do believe it to be permissible, to be valid, and we may have a difference of opinion here, you may disagree with me, but I would just appreciate if you respect the difference. That's all. Look, and I'd like to remind us that we agree on so much more. So to disagree on just, you look at my appearance and you think, I would also like to bring, these people's attention to many of the ulama worldwide, and especially within, let's say, since we have things like photographs and stuff like that, if we just take a look at this last century, and we take a look at a lot of the esteemed ulama from, especially that are let's say, Hanafi. So if you're going to look at the ulama from the Maliki madhhab, and from, let's say, North Africa in general, you will see many ulama that would have had things like kept a goatee, beard, or some of them, let's say the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, the Grand Sheikh, Muhammad Khidr Hussein. I mean, if you look at him, he was clean shaven, Maliki in madhhab. I mean, if you look at a lot of the leading ulama of the Zaytuna, at Tunis, you will see many of them were either clean shaven or next to clean shaven, or a small stubble like beard, or some of them a very trimmed beard. Many of the ulama, they wear suits. So just because people haven't actually been exposed to this does not mean, and now maybe they're seeing me, they're thinking everybody is like, I don't know, like, let's say, dressed the way people do in Saudi Arabia or in the Gulf or in Pakistan, and they're going to assume that, well, just because everybody either dresses like that or there's you. It's not quite like that. I mean, there's many people who have, exercised that the deen has not actually, does not mandate a particular type of uniform. What does the future hold, and what does the future hold for me? To be specific, Allahu A'lam. I mean, to be honest, I've never, even the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to let's say, achieve or accomplish. I had never planned them, and I believe that I believe that there will be great things, and by no doing of mine, I believe by the mercy of Allah, Allah will allow great things to unfold. And I would like, if I could play a role in that, I would like my role to be one which spreads a message of inclusivity, of compassion and love with respect in a day and age where there is such bitter type of almost hate and sectarianism and intolerance. I also would like to spread a greater understanding of the school of Medina, because I feel that this school of Medina, in my personal understanding, and I respect all madh'hab, but I believe the school of Medina, the Maliki madhhab, is one which not only has a pristine understanding and an unbroken chain right back to Medina and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but I also feel that it's taken understanding on maqasid, on understanding the objectives, and not only understanding them but using them, deploying them as a tool, whilst at the same time being so entrenched in the Sunnah. I feel that this is a perspective or an outlook on the deen which is so needed in the West. So I would like to, if I can, bi-idhnillah, play a role in expanding the understanding or the awareness of the school of Medina. So for those who struggle perhaps, because sometimes people feel that I can't embrace some rulings within Islam, and thereby they abandon Islam almost. What they're unaware is that that is actually just a fiqhi perspective. It's not actually Islam that they've abandoned. And to kind of at least give these people an opportunity to embrace the deen wholeheartedly. So if I could play any role in that, that would be an amazing achievement and a blessing from Allah.
Last words, comments? I think that's alright actually.
I think that's okay.
Got a funny face.
Okay. So